The whole room went quiet when Alina spoke, clear and confident, in perfect Japanese. The CEO stared at her, surprised. Then he smiled. No one expected the janitor to know so many languages, let alone help with the company's biggest deal. Alina wiped the mop on her uniform, her heart beating fast. Cleaning floors in this big office building was not what she dreamed of. She wanted to work in diplomacy, to use her language skills for something important. But life had other plans, and bills forced her to take this job. Every night while the office emptied, Alina found a quiet corner with her old language books. She was learning 7 languages: French, Mandarin, Arabic, Russian, Spanish, Japanese, and Portuguese. These languages were her hope, her way out of the life no one noticed. She heard people talking in different languages all the time, but no one knew she understood every word. The bosses and workers passed her by, never paying attention to the janitor who could speak their languages better than most. Tonight was different. The CEO was having a hard time during an important video call with a foreign client. He was confused and missing words. Without thinking, Alina quietly corrected him. The CEO looked at her, curious and no longer ignoring her. Her heart raced. She was just the janitor, someone no one took seriously. But the CEO's look told her something else. This could be her chance to show what she could really do. The hallway lights buzzed overhead as Alina finished cleaning the last glass door. She took one final look at the spotless floor and slipped into the break room, where her worn-out language notebook waited. Its edges were frayed, the cover bent, but she opened it like it held something priceless. These late-night study sessions weren't for fun. They were her way of fighting back. Not long ago, Alina had sat in bright lecture halls, surrounded by world maps and sharp ambition. She wasn't just another student, she stood out. Her professors called her gifted. Her classmates said she'd end up at the United Nations, fluent in diplomacy and 7 languages, reshaping global conversations. But reality spoke a different language. It wasn't her grades that got in the way. It wasn't her skill. It was her passport. It was her name. Visa delays shut doors before she even had a chance to knock. Every missed interview pushed her further from the life she'd earned. Soon, loan payments came, the kind that don't wait. Her resume, impressive as it was, meant nothing when rent was due. The only job she could get was as cleaning staff in a downtown corporate office. It was supposed to be temporary, a short stop on the way back to something better. But months passed, then years. Even so, she refused to let go of her identity. Each new language she studied felt like reclaiming part of who she was meant to be. One night, she found a torn copy of a business magazine in the break room. On the cover, Daniel Crane, CEO of the very company she now cleaned for. The headline praised his ability to speak 3 languages. Alina smiled, not from bitterness, but from irony. He was admired for that. She, invisible, she didn't blame anyone. Not the people who ignored her. Not the ones who left their coffee cups behind without a second thought. But every shift, every glance that passed through her like she wasn't there, it chipped away at something real. And still, she showed up. There were little moments that gave her breath. The wave from the night guard, a nod from a delivery man who recognized her effort, the stillness of the building after hours, when it felt like the only place that hadn't rejected her. But deep down, fear lingered. What if this was it? What if this uniform became her ceiling? Then came the memo. A high-stakes merger was underway. A major Japanese firm was involved. Timelines were tight, expectations even tighter. Everyone in the building felt it. The tension, the urgency, the weight of one wrong word. Executives stayed late, running rehearsals, fumbling through foreign phrases. Alina heard it all, and every mistake was loud to her. She could feel the misunderstanding growing, the cracks forming. She spoke Japanese, fluently, but saying that out loud? Risky. Not because she didn't know what to say, but because she wasn't sure anyone would listen. She glanced at her reflection in the window. Tired eyes, worn uniform, hair pulled back like always. That image didn't say opportunity. It said, stay quiet, and yet, a flicker remained. Maybe she was still meant for more. The big meeting was days away. The pressure was building. Alina watched the rehearsals, the forced smiles, the cultural missteps. She knew the whole thing could fall apart if someone didn't step in. Her hands worked, but her thoughts spun. You can fix this. You know how, speak. But the words never came. Not yet. Because sometimes the moment that changes everything starts in silence. The boardroom hallway felt different that evening. Quiet, but heavy, like something important was about to happen. Alina pushed her cleaning cart past the glass wall, trying not to look inside. The meeting was minutes away. Suits circled the table, rehearsing greetings in voices that did not sound confident. She spotted a phrase on the screen, Japanese characters, but the order was wrong. The meaning was close, but not quite right. No one turned their head toward her. Just another shadow in the hallway. A man stepped out of the room. His expression held a mixture of concern and confusion. He stared at his phone, tapping on a translation app that could not quite deliver the message he needed. His fingers paused. His shoulders slumped. Alina stepped forward. Her words came out softly, spoken in clear and respectful Japanese. She adjusted the sentence he had tried to write, giving it the meaning he wanted. He looked up in surprise. His eyes studied her uniform, then her face. "You studied this language?" he asked. "Yes, for many years, in Kyoto and Moscow." He gave a short nod and walked back into the room. Nothing about the moment felt large, but someone had been listening. The door opened again. Daniel Crane stood there, watching her carefully. His face held no smile, no judgment, only focus. "You are part of the cleaning team?" "Yes." "You speak Japanese?" "And 6 other languages." He did not speak for several seconds. Then he stepped closer. "Be here when the meeting ends." Those were his only words before he disappeared into the room again. Alina stood frozen in place. Her hand still held the rag. Her heart beat faster than it should. For years, no one had asked her anything real. That moment changed something. She finished her shift like usual. Desks were wiped, bins emptied, windows cleaned. But her thoughts stayed in that hallway. Inside her locker, she found a white envelope. There was no name on it, only a typed line. 12th floor, 9 p.m. She had never been to the 12th floor. Her job did not include it. That floor belonged to the people who made decisions, the people who never made eye contact with her. She held the note for a long time before placing it inside her old language notebook. At 8:57 p.m., she stood in front of the elevator, hands slightly shaking. The ride up felt longer than usual. Every floor blinked slowly. Her reflection in the elevator door looked the same. Tired eyes, plain clothes, but something inside her had shifted. She stepped out onto a quiet floor with thick carpets and tall glass windows. Every detail looked expensive. A single door at the end of the hallway stood open. Inside, Daniel was waiting. He did not offer a seat. He handed her a file. "Read the second page. Tell me if it is accurate Japanese." Alina opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the lines. She gave a small shake of her head. "This sentence sounds too direct. It may offend them. Here is a better version." Daniel took a pen and made the change without question. Then he handed her another file. Another envelope appeared the next night. This one was thicker. Inside were 3 sets of documents, each in a different language. German, Portuguese, Russian. No note, no instructions, just papers that should not have reached a janitor's locker. Alina studied them one by one, marking silent corrections in her mind. By now she understood. This was not a test with grades. It was a challenge from someone who saw something the others missed. Daniel began appearing at odd times. Once, He left a Swedish client's email chain open on the break room computer, just long enough for Alina to notice a key mistranslation. Another time she overheard two French investors discussing a clause in a deal. She replied in perfect French. They turned to her, stunned. Then nodded in approval. He never praised her directly. Instead, the tests grew more complex. Some nights she found mock presentations with mixed language slides on the staff printer. Other times, she caught glimpses of meeting notes left accidentally in the copy room. Each task came without warning. Each time she completed it quietly, returning the pages where they belonged, with errors fixed. Rumors began to move through the office. No one knew her name, but everyone started noticing the same thing. Files were cleaner, client calls ran smoother. International visitors began asking, "Who handled the translations?" They never expected the answer to wear a cleaning badge. Alina stayed silent through it all. She did not seek attention. She did not claim credit. But every time someone whispered her name, a new door seemed to open. First, it was access to the internal newsletter. Then a visitor badge with no expiration date. Small things, quiet changes. One afternoon, the head of HR stopped her near the elevator. "There is a mistake in the system," she said. "Your file says janitorial staff, but someone just submitted your name to the operations team." Alina simply smiled. By now, she had stopped asking why these things were happening. The better question was, how far could this go? Daniel's requests kept coming. One evening, he left an audio file playing quietly in the boardroom. A conversation, in Mandarin, full of business terms and delicate phrasing. Alina transcribed the entire exchange by hand and left the translation on his desk before sunrise. No response came the next day, but on the following evening, the 12th floor lights were on again. She entered the conference room. A new document waited on the table. This time, it was not a test. It was an agenda for a high-level strategy meeting with an international partner. Her name appeared at the bottom, listed under Language and Cultural Strategy Consultant. Alina traced the letters with her finger. No title had ever meant more. Her name had been printed on a company memo for the first time. It looked strange, surrounded by titles that once felt untouchable. Director, lead analyst, CFO. She read it twice. Still, it felt unreal. Not everyone was impressed. In the lunchroom, two executives spoke without lowering their voices. "We are making janitors into strategists now," one said. The other laughed. "Next thing you know, they will be teaching us how to do our jobs." She heard every word. That afternoon, someone accidentally deleted her contributions from a shared document. No apology followed, just a shrug. Another day, an email thread about an urgent French client issue left her off the loop. Deliberately. Small acts. Quiet sabotage. And yet, they struck hard. The hallway that once felt neutral now echoed with silent judgment. Every glance seemed to ask what she was doing there. Every closed door sounded like rejection. Her hands shook when she held a pen. Her voice caught in meetings. She second-guessed every sentence before speaking. The fear was not new. It was the same fear from visa offices. The same fear from interviews that ended with, "We will get back to you." The same fear from landlords who questioned her name and background. Late one night, she stood in the elevator with the lights dimmed. The folder she held contained a high-stakes presentation for an international summit, one where she was expected to speak, alone, in 4 languages, to global partners. She felt like a fraud. She stared at her reflection in the metal walls. "What are you doing here?" the voice inside her whispered. "You are not ready. You will mess this up." Tears welled up, but she blinked them back. Then came a sound. Footsteps, a paper cup crinkling. A familiar face entered the elevator. Ethan, the intern from HR. Quiet, observant, usually invisible. He noticed the tension in her face. He held out a worn notebook. "You dropped this in the cafeteria," he said. "I read a page. I hope that's okay." She reached for it, confused. "It was beautiful," he added. "The way you translated that poem from Turkish, I have never seen. Words move like that." She did not speak. "People like me," he continued. "We do not say it, but we watch. We see what you are doing. It gives people like us hope." The elevator reached the ground floor. He stepped out, paused, and looked back. "Do not let them decide who gets to lead," he said. "You already are." The doors closed. Her hands tightened around the notebook. The building felt less cold. No applause followed. No dramatic music played. Just a small, unexpected thread of courage pulling her forward again. The pressure remained. The critics did not disappear. But the silence inside her mind, once filled with fear, began to shift. The summit was days away. The weight of it had not lessened. But now she knew she would stand there. Speak clearly. Represent not just the company, but everyone who had ever been told they were not enough. The resistance was real, but so was the reason to keep going. Part 7. Climax. The deal or disaster. The boardroom doors had never looked so tall. Inside, the tension was already slicing through the air. Executives shuffled papers, eyes darting from screens to watches. The delegation from Kyoto had arrived 15 minutes early. Polished suits, briefcases, and unreadable expressions filled the far side of the room. Velman & Co. had spent months preparing for this day. The merger could double their market share across Asia. One signature could transform the future. But one misstep could cost them everything: millions in revenue, global credibility, and the CEO's reputation. Daniel Crane adjusted his cufflink, masking the unease beneath his composed surface. He had trusted the team to finalize every detail. A translator had been booked. Cultural consultants had been briefed. The company had rehearsed every scripted line. Then the screen flickered. The interpreter's voice cracked through the speakers, robotic, stilted, painfully off mark. A simple greeting turned awkward. The Japanese executives exchanged glances. Politeness remained on their faces, but doubt had entered the room. One mispronunciation, then another. An idiom twisted into nonsense. A financial term reversed entirely. Murmurs rippled through Velman's side of the table. The translator paused, muttered something about a bad connection, and disappeared from the call entirely. A full silence followed. No one moved. Alina stood at the edge of the room, unnoticed. No title on her badge. No claim to a chair. She had been asked to observe for context. Nothing more. But now all eyes had turned to Daniel, and Daniel turned to her. No dramatic nod. No speech. Just a look. Alina stepped forward. One of the executives from Kyoto spoke softly, clearly offering a second chance to clarify the confusion. Her ears picked up every syllable, every nuance, every cultural cue baked into tone and posture. She responded, not just with words, but with rhythm, cadence, intention. The boardroom changed shape. The visitors leaned in, nodding, not just in comprehension, but in respect. She translated complex tax terms, legal conditions, and emotional subtext with flawless balance. When one delegate made a quiet joke, she delivered it in English with equal charm, and laughter followed from both sides. A spreadsheet was pulled up. She reviewed it in real time, translating technical language while suggesting 2 phrasing corrections that softened a previously rigid clause. She was not just translating, she was negotiating, gracefully, without arrogance. With precision, not ego. For the first time that day, Daniel leaned back in his chair. An hour passed, then 2. At the end, one of the Japanese executives stood. He spoke, then placed a pen on the table. The room froze. Daniel turned to Alina. "What did he say?" She smiled gently, He said he feels seen. He said he is ready to sign. Applause erupted, quiet at first, then rising. Alina stepped back. Not to the edge of the room, but beside Daniel. No one asked her to move. No one stopped her. The deal was sealed. The boardroom, once filled with doubt, now felt like something else entirely. When the visitors left, one paused beside her. He bowed. She returned the gesture with equal respect. The door closed. Daniel looked at her. "You just saved this company." She shook her head. "I just did what I was trained to do." "No," he said, his voice steady. "You did what no one else in this room could." And then he handed her something. Not a gift, not a check, a new ID badge. The title read, Director of Global Communications. The lobby smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Alina adjusted the stack of welcome folders in her arms as the new hires filed through the glass doors, some wide-eyed, others trying not to look nervous. She spotted one at the end of the line, clinging to a mop handle like it was a lifeline. His name tag read, Facilities Assistant. His eyes scanned the room, unsure if he belonged in it. She walked over without hesitation. "You're new?" she asked, voice calm but warm. He nodded quickly. "First day. Just here to clean." Alina smiled, placing a folder into his hands. "You're here to learn. The rest comes later." He blinked. I read about you. The boardroom story. The languages. Is it all real?" "Every word," she replied. Then reached into her bag and pulled out a slim paperback. Basic Business Japanese. "This helped me once. Might help you too." He took it like it was made of gold. A voice on. The loudspeaker called for the onboarding tour to begin. Alina glanced toward the elevators, then back at him. "Don't let this uniform fool you," she said softly. "It never defined me. It won't define you either." He nodded, clutching the book tighter. As he followed the others, she turned, back to her office. A glass-paneled space once off limits to people like her. The past had not disappeared. But it no longer controlled the story. And on the door above her nameplate, the words still gave her pause. Director of Global Communications. She paused, watching the elevator doors close, and whispered to herself, "Someone is always watching, so never shrink." Stories like Alina's remind us, talent doesn't always wear a title. Sometimes it wears a name tag and carries a mop. If her journey struck a chord, drop it in the comments to let others know they are not alone. Your like might help this story reach someone still waiting to be seen, because brilliance can come from anywhere, and the world needs more eyes willing to notice it.